Some people like cake, some people like cookies, some people like, I don't know, ice cream and that kind of thing when it comes to dessert and snacking. For me, when it comes to snacking, I really enjoy bun and cheese. A spice bun, a little sweet, plenty spices, and then a nice rat cheese up in there, that sharp cheddar cheese. Yeah, for me that is a top tier snack. So today, I'm gonna do a nice spice bun, and of course we're gonna flavor it up with some Angostura Aromatic Bitters in the bun itself, and then I'm doing a nice little simple citrus glaze using the Angostura Orange Bitters. It's gonna be real nice. So, I ain't even wasting no time, let me jump into this one time. Okay, so starting off with the dry ingredients, we're going in with 4 cups of flour, and all-purpose flour is fine. Going in with 1/4 cup of brown sugar, 2 teaspoons of yeast, 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1/2 teaspoon of ginger powder, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of cardamom powder. Whisk this all together to make sure it's fully combined. For the wet ingredients, crack in 1 egg, beat that. To 1 cup of milk, we're gonna add our egg, 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla essence. Also wanna add a couple dashes of Angostura Aromatic Bitters, and that's gonna add even more aromatics and spicy flavor to our spice buns. Gonna combine this. Now we're gonna add the wet ingredients to the dry. Mix that in. Continue to add the wet ingredients. And now we want to combine this fully and bring it together into a dough. And as your dough starts to come together in the bowl, what you want to do is transfer it onto our work surface, and then we want to knead this for about 5 minutes or so until a nice smooth dough is formed. Alright, so now that we have our dough in a nice smooth ball, I'm going to place this back into our bowl and then allow this to rest for at least 30 minutes, between 30 to 45 minutes. You're going to cover it and allow it to rest. Alright, so our dough has rested, and now we want to form our buns. Well, divide the dough and form it into our buns. Now, typically people would flour the surface to continue working with the dough. I don't like flouring the surface because that tends to add, well, more flour to the dough and dry it out. Well, it would, run the risk of drying it out. So I like to use a little oil on my hands and a little oil on the dough to prevent it from sticking. All right. Now we want to divide this. Now, if you want, you can get real, scientific with it and use a scale and weight and all of that. But how much people actually have a scale in the kitchen to do this, accurately? I have one, but I'm not gonna use it. We're just gonna go by look and feel, right? I mean, we're doing this for marks, so who's judging? And you just wanna try to get them as even as possible, right? Again, we're not doing this for marks, so don't beat up too much about it. If you have some buns that's slightly bigger than the other one, so what? It ain't no big deal. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 buns. So this part, I think, is the part that, gives people a little bit of trouble, and that is forming the buns and getting some nice smooth buns. Did a couple videos in the past, lives and other baking videos doing buns where people say they tried and the buns didn't come out how mine came out. And a big part of that is knowing how to form the buns. As you can see, I'm doing this motion here, we are twisting and pulling. What you're trying to achieve is literally pulling the surface, the dough, against itself and kind of forming a tight skin on the dough ball, right? So the technique here is to pinch and pull. And as you're pulling, you're literally pulling this and stretching the skin on the other side. That is the technique to get a smooth dough ball, a smooth bun, right? And then you're kind of cupping it in this hand. So you're cupping and pinching and turning. And you're pinching to seal the bottom. Now if you have a smooth surface, you could use the surface to roll like this. But again, that's ensuring that your surface is very smooth. Sometimes you have a work surface that is not the smoothest. So if you don't have a smooth surface, just use your hands like this. And you use this pinching and pulling technique to make sure that you get a nice tight skin on your dough. And that will ensure that when your buns bake, you have some nicely formed buns. Your buns ain't looking, obzucky and that kind of thing. You want some nice looking buns, so sun's out, buns out. That's what we're talking about. Boom. So I have my baking sheet here lined with parchment paper. I'm just gonna place this one and continue forming the rest of my buns. All right, so now that we have all our buns formed, I'm gonna cover this and allow it to rest for another 30 to 40 minutes, and then we're gonna pop it in our oven preheated at 350 degrees, and we're gonna bake them for about 20 to 25 minutes. All right, so 10 minutes later, our glaze is reduced. So I'm just gonna switch this off and just wait for our buns to go into the oven. And when they come out, we're gonna put this all over the buns and you're gonna get a nice sticky citrus glaze on our beautiful spice buns. All right, so our buns have risen. So now it's time to pop them in the oven, preheated at 350 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes. Our buns are fresh out of the oven. Just transferring them onto this rack here. And we had to let them cool, but before we let them cool, we want to apply our glaze. All right, so just gonna apply our glaze generously. Don't be shy, don't be bashful, because this citrus glaze is going to add a whole other dimension of flavor to the buns. All right, so you see how these buns looking? Perfectly shaped, and the reason why I went through the steps of showing you how to get the tight skin on it while you're forming it is because if you don't do that, you're not going to get this kind of result. You're not going to get this perfectly round shape, nice and smooth and evenly baked and that kind of thing. You'll end up with a kind of bumpy bun, and if you don't form it properly before it goes into the oven, it's not going to come out looking like this. So I really want you to pay attention to those steps of getting a tight skin on the dough when you're forming the bun before you put it into the oven. So yeah, I mean, enough talking, right? The smelling good, the looking good. And now for the most important part, the tasting. Now I ain't tasting this just so. I had to add my cheese. Rat cheese up in this, The best combo ever. I really should have used a serrated knife here, but I try not to dirty too much ways. So I'm going to use the same knife to cut the cheese. And listen, I don't know what kind of psychopath does cut cheese horizontally. We don't do that. We don't cut cheese horizontally. That is real psychopath business. You cut cheese vertically. Let me know down in the comments which direction you cut your cheese. Vertically or the psychopath way. I don't know. I don't know why you would cut the cheese across like that. Why you would do that. I don't know why people just do that. Anyway, rant over. Let me get back to business here. Boom. That is it there, you know. That is it there. Tasting one time. Let me tell all you something. The combination of this warm spice bun, spices like the ginger, cinnamon, nutmeg, and of course the aromatic bitters coming through. Then the citrus glaze, adding that nice citrus flavor. You get that sweetness from the glaze. The bun itself not too sweet, so it's not overpowering. It's not an overpowering sweetness. It's a nice addition to the very mellow sweetness of the bun. The bun is more spice, and then you get the sweetness from the glaze, and then the sharpness of that cheese up in there. Let me tell you something. It's like flavor on top of flavor on top of flavor. Just 3 different experiences in one little packet. You can't beat this. This for me, top tier, top tier. This is a recipe you definitely want to try. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, give it a share. And of course, thanks to Angostura Aromatic Bitters and Angostura Orange Bitters for sponsoring this episode. Look out for a link in the video description. I'll have a link to the full recipe. And of course, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please take a moment to do so. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Mm-hmm.